Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Keepin It Rio. You got Chuck here, and I am very excited for today's episode. We've got a great guest, Larry Bubba Richards, owner of TRG Roofing and Construction and board member of Roofers in Recovery. We're going to have a really amazing conversation today, and I'm looking forward to it. So let me hit this intro real quick, and I'll be back on the backside with an amazing guest. Okay. Bubba, I got to tell you one thing before you even get started. I told you right before we went on here that I'd be back in exactly 1 minute. When you go watch this replay, that you just kicked on at the 1.00. That's how tight I've got it right now. So welcome to Keeping It Real, my friend. How's everything going today?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
I am too. I think this is a conversation that's been a couple years in the making, and I'm glad we're finally able to make it happen. Where are you coming to us from today?
So I am south of Nashville. We office in a little town called Franklin. I live south of that in Spring Hill, but we're in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, Franklin, Tennessee. I know that besides yourself, the most famous guy from there is what? Darryl Waltrip?
I would say there's quite a few country music stars that reside in Franklin. So we'd let them argue over who's more famous, you know.
I love it. That's awesome. You're the most famous guy there. And by the way, I've always wanted to have a guy named Bubba on the podcast. It's an honor to have you as the first Bubba. So welcome to the show. We were just kind of talking a little bit beforehand about, life in general and things, and wanted to get a little bit of background on yourself, your company. I know you've been there in Nashville now for a couple years. What led you down there and what got you into the roofing industry first? And then we'll kind of veer off in a different course here, but day-to-day stuff. How's everything going?
Yeah, it's great. I got in the roofing industry. I'd been in construction. When I came out of college, I built homes in the Dallas, Texas area, up in Frisco, Texas. I was building homes for quite some time. I think 4 years into that, I met a gentleman that introduced me into construction sales, and he was selling for a foundation repair company. And I got into foundation repair and structural repair and started doing in-home sales. And so I had done that the majority of my life. And but man, we'll just jump into the deep water. But getting arrested and getting a felony is what led me into the roofing industry. When I came out of jail, I lost my job, and when I went to interview with companies that I would typically interview with, they wouldn't have me because of my background. So I found out quickly that there were construction sales jobs available in the roofing industry as a 1099 contractor, which means they don't run your background checks. So I could jump in and get that going. And that's a part of my recovery story is the embarrassment of sitting through and knocking interviews out of the park. And then they go, hey, is there anything that's going to be exciting on your background? And I just kind of drop the head in shame and know that interview process is over. But that's what led me to the roofing industry, truth be told.
Hey, you know what? I've got so many friends with a similar background, similar story. And that's what I love about our industry. The fact that you do get a chance at redemption and, quite honestly, you can turn your entire life around and you're living proof of that. So I really appreciate the fact that you got in and now you're becoming very prominent. I mean, I see you all the time on the social media and getting yourself out there and really kind of spreading your message and showing people that, it is possible. You make mistakes and serve your time and do what you need to do. And you can come back out on the other side and really make something special of yourself. So you're an inspiration. I don't know how far you want to dig deep into the whole deal. You kind of threw it out there right off the bat. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, what were the circumstances and how did you overcome?
Man, I'll start by saying, number one, I am a big believer in do the crime, do the time. I have been. There were times I was put in jail where I end up getting into a fight in jail because I'm defending the police officer that this guy's yelling at and stupid stuff like that. I am a tremendous believer in actions and consequences. And I earned every one of mine. When I sat at probation, when I sat talking to judges, I always said I'm the only guilty person in the room, because everyone got screwed by the system or got shafted somehow. And I'm like, I earned mine. I was a straight up raging alcoholic, drug addict. And every time I was put in jail was completely justified. And so, for me, I guess I started drinking when I was 12. I had older sisters and I was watching their friends do it. And so it looked like something that the cool kids did. So I just started doing it and started smoking marijuana and that sort of stuff. And, I'm playing every sport known to man, but when I'm away from that, I'm wanting to look cool. So I'm doing that. And then as I got into high school, I was 14, I looked like I was 21. And so a lot of the older kids started taking me to go get them beer. And so I really thought that was cool. And I get to hang out with some of the older guys, and through football, the things that we did on weekends, it just made me feel accepted. So that's where I started looking for my acceptance. I knew I could shotgun beers quickly. I knew I could drink a ton, and that made me cool or whatever. And so I started to look for the validation in that. And that's what became the giant hole inside me, because you're just never going to fill it up when you're looking for validation in the wrong places. So that led me to, I guess, the first time I got in trouble with the law. I was playing football at a college in New Mexico, and I got in trouble there, drinking at a party, and got invited to leave New Mexico. And so I transferred and went to the University of Oklahoma, got arrested in Dallas on a spring break. And that was 91, 92 between the two of those. And between then and 2015, there were 27 trips in and out. It was just something. I was a repeat offender, as they like to call it in the system. And I just couldn't get out of my own way. Most people learn from their consequences, and my consequences never got big enough for me to really change my behavior until 2015. And that's when I was in Wiley, Texas, and got in trouble. And it cost me what I consider a significant amount of time. And it lost, my family, lost my job, lost everything that I considered valuable at that time. And so that's when my bottom came up to meet me, and decided to start making a change.
Man, that's quite the story, and that's a lot of experience for a young guy. You get to that point where you finally just have enough, right? And you've got to make this change in your life. Obviously, you have to change everything around you, because you stay in the same surroundings, the same environment, you're going to slip back into those habits again. It's inevitable. What was the next step for you after you said, "Hey, I've had enough of this. I'm going to do something." For the first time in life, you feel like, I don't want this anymore. I've seen enough, and that's very commendable. A lot of people never get to that point, but once you get there, what's the game plan moving forward, and how do we attack each and every day, making sure that you stay on the straight and narrow?
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a journey for me. So I started out, I bought this book by Jack Canfield called the 30-Day Sobriety Solution. And when I decided I wanted to get clean, again, it was when my family left, it was right before an Easter weekend. And so I didn't know what I was going to do on an Easter weekend being alone. I knew it was going to put me into a position where I felt pain like I was not used to feeling. And so I started looking around at churches. Where can I go to church? Which one advertises the longest sermons so I can occupy the majority of my day? I found a church that had, they advertised 2.5 hour meetings, and they had 3 of them back to back. And I'm like, all right, that'll get me at least to mid-afternoon. And so I went and I sat in that church, and as I sat there, I asked God to take it from me. And I just said, look, man, I've been fighting this since I was 12. I clearly can't do it on my own. And I need you to take it from me. And so a lot of people think that I'm a freak by saying this, but I had an experience there that I could feel. I'm not saying that God reached down and physically put his hands on me or anything like that, but God took the desire to drink from me, and God said, get busy getting better, and I'll see you through it. And so I bought that book, and every morning, if I would just get out of bed and get to that book, something would be revealed to me in that book. And so that got me through probably 9 months. And I was 9 months in, and Paul Reed reached out to me on Facebook and said, hey, man, I see you're posting stuff about recovery. Are you in recovery? And I said, yeah, I am. I've been clean for 9 months. And he was like, oh, why don't you come into this group, Roofers in Recovery? And so I went into that group, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are my people. We all deal with the daily stresses that are the same, that come with this business, whether it's a build going wrong, or like the day before yesterday, I got guys up on a roof and poof, there's 60-mile-an-hour winds. Make sure your guys are safe, and then figure out how to corral the trash.
Yeah, right.
Just normal stresses that we deal with. And the guys in there understood it. And then I met a guy named Eric Oberunt through Roofers in Recovery, and Eric and I kind of talk the same language, even though he cusses a lot more than I do. Now, I'm just kidding. In case he hears it, I had to get that jab in. But we spoke the same language. And so I reached out to him, and I'm like, hey, man, in AA talk, I asked him to be my sponsor. So I asked him to help walk me through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so we did that. And so we've developed a relationship. And my thing was, I wanted to show up and serve. And so every week when we have our meetings, we do specific things that are a little ritualistic. And I said, okay, I'm going to be there to do this every single week. And we got to a point where, as they were leading the meetings, they knew if they needed someone to read, I would have the book. And so they would call on me to read and call on me to read. And so I just showed up to serve. And so as Roofers in Recovery started to grow, I'm super grateful that they reached out and asked me to come sit on the board with them. I'm sure that they regret it at some point in times, because as we have board meetings, I'm very legalistic. They gave me the chairman title because I am very structured, and no, we're talking about this. We don't leave this point until this point's done. And so they gave me that chairman moniker so I could at least keep the structure going. And it's been an absolute blessing, man, just having the influence of the guys in that room. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and out everybody in that room. We have a certain degree of anonymity that goes along with that. But man, the amount of wisdom that's in that room, the amount of energy that's in that room. And so on the days when you still feel like you're just putting one foot in front of the other, you pick up the phone, and someone's going to be there to encourage you. It's such a phenomenal group. It's been an absolute blessing for me.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I kind of follow you guys a little bit, and it's weird to me that you and I had never really spoken other than just for a very brief moment, I think at RoofCon.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I've never really met Eric and Paul personally and spoken with them, but I follow what you guys are doing. I know they've got the, the podcast and all that. That's why I kind of laugh when you said, Eric likes to cuss a little bit more than you do, because I listen to his show. But I think it's really amazing that guys have, taken it upon themselves to put something like this together. Obviously, everybody's got a life story behind them, and a lot of people are all talk, and you hear a lot of folks that say, well, I wish you well, and I wish this and that. But these guys are very successful business owners as well, which we all know. I mean, heck, that's enough to have on your plate as it is. But you throw in this labor of love, which is, growing tremendously and reaching out to, I don't even know how many people, but I'm sure there's, thousands of people that it's touched at this point. It just speaks volumes for what's good about our industry and what's good about just people in general, reaching out to help each other, to be there. I think that's an incredible story. Before you got involved with Roofers in Recovery, how long had that been in existence? When did that all come about for those guys?
So, yeah, it came about, about, I think, 7 months before I got in there, they were rolling. They had their first meeting at a Win the Storm conference, maybe 3 years ago, was the first, face-to-face meeting where guys got together and actually had a meeting at one of the events. And yeah, it's really cool to see people that we have a specific guy in there that was his first meeting ever, and so he's been clean ever since, and so that's a really special thing to see.
Yeah, I mean it is a day-to-day journey, and I know a lot of people that are fighting that battle. And there's any number of things, like you said, you have a bad day at the office, heck man, go home, grab a drink or whatever, nobody will even know. You have to have an immense amount of discipline to do what you're doing. And I really like what you said earlier about, just hold me accountable. I did the crime, let me do the time. Having that kind of accountability is huge, even if it's not always to your benefit, but ultimately it ends up working out in the end. Being accountable to yourself is the most important thing. And when you're having a bad day and you've got some stuff that's going on, do you ever have those thoughts, or was it one of those moments where you just literally, like you said, just kind of had that hey, I'm done, I don't want to do it anymore, it doesn't appeal to me, and you just shut it completely out? I'm sure there's got to be some tough times, right?
Yeah, man. I think I'll praise you for asking that question, because that's not a question that we get asked often, and each one of us has our own weak spots. For me, what I did my entire life, if I wasn't trying to fill that validation issue with alcohol, I was chasing females, and so that gave me validation. And so for me right now, I don't struggle with taking a drink. What I do know is if I'm not taking care of making sure I'm properly affirmed and I'm feeling like a whole human being and I'm feeling emotionally sound and emotionally strong, I will turn somewhere I shouldn't to get that attention. And my guilt from looking for that attention outside of my marriage will lead me to a bar. That's what I know about me. So that's what I protect against on my weekdays when I'm struggling. I'm grateful, to be able to put my family back together and tell my wife, hey, I'm having a weekday. I may need you to crank up the affection or the affirmation today. But having a relationship where I can communicate that way, or picking up the phone and calling one of those guys and go, man, I'm feeling down today. And it's okay if I called you and said, hey, Chuck, I'm feeling down about myself today. Would you remind me of something that's great about me? In our relationship right now, it might be a little bit weird, but as I get to know that you're an emotionally mature human being, that I'm an emotionally mature human being, and that relationship develops, it's okay. I'm like, thanks for calling me when you're down. Let me show you what I see in you. And then we build each other up. And then it makes that day that may have started kind of weak, it turns it into a strength.
Man, I love that. And I'll tell you what, that's a source of great pride for me, is that I do have quite a few people that I've gotten to meet over the course of my career. I've been in this for 20 plus years. And every once in a blue moon, I'll get a phone call from someone that I hadn't heard from in a while. And it's very encouraging when someone calls and says, hey, man, I feel like you're someone I can talk to. I feel like you understand. And I feel like you're going to give me the positive, affirmation, like you said, that I need right here. It's awesome that there's so many people that are willing to do that nowadays, because we are in an industry that's and so on and so forth, and it's tough because we're all people, and at the end of the day, everybody's got stuff going on in their life that they're dealing with. I was extremely blessed. Just this past week, I got to go to Orlando, Florida for 4 days with one of my associates, K Socialized Media, which you see up here in the top right corner of our screen, put together a retreat for some roofing company owners. We were in Orlando at a really cool resort. It was a video game themed house. Every room, 15 rooms, were Monopoly and Pac-Man and all these cool things. But one of the best parts of that retreat was that we had a 2-hour block, and it was actually my time to be a speaker. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit intimidated because I'm used to working with sales teams. I'm used to, talking to people that are less experienced and kind of teaching them from my experiences. And in this case, I was kind of nervous because I'm going to talk to a bunch of people that are here and then above, as far as I can see, and I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but this kind of came from nowhere. And I've been going through quite a bit the last, say, 8-9 months myself, a lot of personal stuff outside of the office, which then led to the office kind of, rolling into the big snowball effect. And everything was kind of going wrong there for a little while. I always pride myself on trying to be upbeat and keep my positivity going because, at the end of the day, that's all you really can control is the way you feel. But it takes you down sometimes. So I just opened up in this room and I'd never been able to do that before in my life. It was one of the most powerful things that I've probably ever experienced, honestly, because I looked around the room and there were roofing company owners, there were people that are in my organization, friends, people that I hardly even know, but we were all there and we were having that experience. And by the time that 2 hours was finished, I felt like the weight of the world had come off my shoulders. And it really gives me an appreciation now, even more for what you guys are doing, because there's a definite need. I was in a room with 13 different people and all 13 had a similar experience that they could recall and recount. And just knowing that you're not doing this by yourself and knowing that no matter what you're going through, you can find somebody out there that's willing to just say, hey, look, you're the man. Just keep going. Everything's going to get better. I appreciate that. I mean, taking the time to do that is incredible.
Yeah, it's a neat feeling, and I think the more that we see it in ourselves, we start to see it in other people. And I do think we're in an industry of cavemen that are yearning for some proper leadership that way. I grew up. I'll be 50 in a few months. So I grew up raised by a Marine father. Do as I say, not as I do, and you better do it better than I told you to do, or you're going to get drilled in the chest for it. And don't shed a tear and don't show weakness. And when I got in the construction industry, it was more of that. We learned to manage by intimidation because we can't properly identify what emotions we're feeling, whether it's fear, whether our ego's jumping in, whether we're scared or whether we're angry. It all just comes out as anger, because we know if I elevate and get here, most people are going to cower down and I'm going to get what I want. And so I think as I go around to the different events in the industry and we see people start stepping out that are emotional and that are positive, in that we see that people are yearning for that. And I know in my house, we've got 4 boys, and that's something that I try and teach those boys, that it is okay. You don't have to be just angry. You can feel stuff. We still have a standard how we want to show up for things, but you can feel stuff. You can properly identify those emotions. You can properly deal with those emotions and then move through. And it does help when you've got some leadership, people like you that are willing to step out and be vulnerable, people that like those that are in our group, and they are willing to be real and vulnerable. And when other people see that and they go, oh my gosh, he's that way, he's willing to do that. I laugh about it. I'm a big advocate of going to the gym. So I go to the gym 11, 12 times a week, and I'm an ex-power lifter, and I have the God-given ability to move some heavy stuff. So I get started talking to guys in there, and as I share, we'll get into some deep conversations. I'm trying to deadlift 700 pounds, but now we're over here talking about this guy's grieving from a loss in a family. So just being willing to go out and lead that way, I believe men all across the country are dying to see it, feel it, touch it, because we all have the feelings. They just need to be shown how to properly sort through them.
Yeah, I think, boy, that's spot on, and that's extremely strong. You're right, especially in our industry, because again, historically, we look back and the roofing industry in general, it doesn't require a PhD. Let's be honest. We're not operating on brains. Most of us are doing more damage to our brain than we are helping. And they're just a huge mix of people. I've always said, there's definitely the great divide in this industry, and it's the old school mentality, which is like you said, hey, I'm in charge. You're going to do my way or this. And throwing stuff and slamming things, and then there's the more reasonable approach, which to me, it really speaks volumes when you can have people that are in different organizations and they are willing to sit down in a room together and they're willing to discuss key things like that go far beyond just a roofing company. We don't even talk about roofing. The roofing, like we say in our organization, it's a vehicle to get to where you're wanting to go. We get to help a lot of people. Sure, it's a great paying job, which is just an added bonus. I don't know that I've ever thought about it in those terms of just doing this for money. You know, if you thought about doing it for money, you'd probably be selling roofs for someone else rather than doing your own business, quite frankly. The stress would be a lot better too. But the industry does need that. And I can see that there's a lot more prominence as social media has started to evolve, as we've started to be, you know, able to do stuff like what we're doing right here. More people can talk, more people around the country can be closely related to each other like this. And I think it's inevitable that the good is going to overtake the bad. And I believe it already has, but I think it's going to be a sweeping change across the board. And I'm just glad that I can be a part of it in this generation, this era, because I started, like I said, back in the late 90s, going through those generations. It's been, you know, an evolution. I've seen a lot of different people come and go. A lot of great people that I've met over the years are no longer with us. So there's a need for it. And, you know, just knowing that your impact is changing the lives or saving the lives of, you know, who knows how many. We'll never know that true number, but it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, when leaders in this industry, I've heard a few of them talk about, you know, legacy. And so you impact someone and then it starts to multiply. Hunter Ballou specifically, he talks about the multiplication effect. And when you impact one person, then they go impact, who knows, 3 people down the road, you may run into someone that is just uber impactful. You helped. You help set that trigger off, and that is a big deal. Just a really, really big deal. You know, for me, I was challenged to start posting more on social media, and then another person said, "Hey, man, you know, you have all these opinions and emotional processes that you go through that you talk to us about within our organization. Why don't you start sharing some of that?" And he's like, "Just put a video out there every day for the next 30 days." And so I started sharing that, and man, was absolutely overwhelmed with the number of people that hop into my DMs about that stuff. It's and that was just confirmation that people are yearning to hear it. You know, that there are tons of people out there also that, you know, be it in our industry or not in our industry, that want coaching, but they're not necessarily in that space where they're looking to go from good to great. Many of the coaches out there, we want to make you the greatest this, and you got to be an overachiever. And some people out there are looking to learn how to crawl before they can walk. And but they all have a need. So what you were talking about, whether we're dealing with a CEO of the largest roofing company that there is, or where we're dealing with a one-man show or a project manager, everyone has levels, and we impact people above us. We impact people even with us. We impact people below us. For me, it is just understanding that we are impactful by nature, and we have a responsibility to that. One of the things you were talking about, feeling nervous before you go on, before I show up to speak, whether it's on stage or speaking to a small group, I've got something that I read, and I read that poem, the Man in the Arena. And then I tell myself, you own the room. It's your responsibility to show up that way. And I'll say that as many times as I need to hear it for me to believe it, because when I show up, I have a responsibility to deliver for those people wherever they are, because the people out there are dying to hear it right now.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. You've got a great message that you're bringing out. And, you know, like you were just saying, that start off doing a couple videos. I've been watching your videos, and, you know, each one progressively, you start getting a little bit more comfortable. You start getting a little bit more, you know, confident in yourself, and you're putting out some really amazing stuff right now. Obviously, there's a evolution that comes to that when you've got a message, or if you're just someone like me that just likes to talk and, you know, talk to people. Or our Thursday show where we talk about, you know, greatest gas station hot dogs in America and things of that nature. But we've got platforms now. So what's the next step for Bubba and his platform, and how are you going to continue to get your message out to the people, and how far are you looking to take your message?
Yeah. So, well, I missed my first video last night, and this was something, if I'm being true to myself and I'm being true to the message that I preach, I showed up to my house not the best version of myself last night. Um, I don't know why. Something happened from when I went through my process that I do every day when I pull in the driveway to when I got to the front door. I walked in and I tripped over some shoes. I saw a dog had peed on the floor. There was trash stacked up over the edge of the trash. And so immediately I showed up and I wasn't right. And you could feel the vibe in the house. And so I had to go check myself, get back out there, leave my phone in the room, and get energized and go back to serving my family, which is ultimately what I'm called to do. And so I missed that video. And at 9 o'clock, my wife said, "Oh my gosh, you haven't done the video yet." And my son said, "You just go in there and do it." I go, "No, I am practicing what I preach right now. I talk about being where my feet are. My feet are with my family tonight. That's what I'm going to do." And so today I'm going to hop back on. I'm going to finish that 30-day process. But the 14th of this month, I'll roll out a podcast, and my podcast will be a short version of me taking some process that I've learned through getting sober and picking myself up from the bottom. In one of my videos, I talk about whenever I first started talking about stacking wins, literally it was me getting out of bed, making my bed, folding my hand towel, folding my towel, and putting my dishes up after I ate breakfast. Those were the 3 wins. I had to do those every single morning. And then I started there. That's how basic my life was. And then I started stacking on top of that. And it'll be the same thing. So we're going to talk short bit about that. And then once a week, I'm going to have someone on. And when I talk to the people that are on the show, I'm going to talk to them about, when did they plant the flag? When did they decide to be different? And it's different for everybody. I listened to a podcast where Kobe Bryant talked about, he played in this summer league where he did not score a point all year. And his dad told him, "Son, I love you if you score 0 or if you love 60. And he, later that day came back and said, "Dad, if it's all the same to you, I'd rather you love me while I'm scoring 60. And that's when he planted his flag and went to work. And we all know what he did. He's got a work ethic like no other, and he accomplished things. God rest his soul. He did things that were special, and so that's what I want to know. I want to talk to people. When did they decide to be different, and when did they decide to stop settling for being common and to do something exceptional? For you, I know you've gone through some journeys with your, I believe you had lost a lot of weight, but you could see, for me, you could see the change in your attitude and the positivity that was oozing out of you, whether it was directly attributed to the weight loss or whether it was just a change in your spirit. And so that would be, when you come on mine, that's what we're going to talk about. What was it that turned you into this person that oozes positivity and happiness? And so that's what it will be about, man. We're going to do that. My heart's desire is to be a coach. I know that, with that, what do they say, take a quarter and a cup of coffee, and you can find one of those on every corner. I don't want to be an internet coach. I want to work with people that want to change, that really want to reinvent themselves, whether it's alcohol related or whether it's not. I want to leave this world having had an impact on some folks. And so that's where I feel led right now to do that, is to work with people and teach them the processes I've learned to move themselves from a negative impact on this world to a positively contributing human being. Whether that's just in their house, whether it's locally, whether it's nationally, we never know. But I would like to be a fire starter for some folks to get rolling that way.
I like that. That is a tremendous purpose to have in life. And, your why is very strong. Let me just back up for a split second. We talked very briefly about your roofing company.
Yeah.
How do you use your roofing company as a vehicle to help with this entire process as well? What are you able to use it for, I guess, for lack of a better term, to continue to benefit others and, to give back in your community and to feed positive vibes back out into the world?
So we just talk to people. I am fortunate with, we decided to go get the Roofers in Recovery tattoo on our forearms. And that opens conversations for me quite a bit. And I don't know that any customer of our company doesn't know that I'm a part of Roofers in Recovery, that doesn't know that I'm in recovery. I'm very upfront with that, but it starts with my guys and how I deal with my guys and gals that work with me. And you know, our first rule, and I know it's a great buzzword now, but authenticity is our first rule, and we deal with each other that way. And so we start there, and then we go out into the community. And with, you know, my agent referral partners, we have authentic relationships with them. With our customers, we have authentic relationships with them. We talk to them. You know, when I make a phone call before a job goes on, I'm not selling. I'm telling them the reality that's going to go down whenever we're putting a roof on. It's going to look like World War III happened in your front yard, and then it's not. It's going to sound like they're absolutely peeling the top of your roof off, but they're not. And just being honest and forthright with folks, and trying to have those authentic interactions. We had a roof that went on the day before yesterday, and the guy responded, because I told him he was in my local town, and I said, "Hey man, if you need somewhere for your pup to go," he's got an 11-week-old pup. I'm like, my kids will take care of the pup for the day. And it may have been a little bit of selfish motivation on that because I'm a dog guy, but and he thought that was the most amazing thing. And I'm like, hey, that's just us being human beings. So realizing that, you know, we're roofers, and we go out there and we want to fight the good fight, and we're going to do battle and all that stuff. But man, just treating folks like human beings. And then when you get out in the community, talk to people and just love on people. Do the right thing, even when it's the hard thing to do, and the next right thing will come find you. And so we use TRG as that platform just to get out and talk to people. And when you believe in what you're doing, the phrase I use is bleed the brand. When you bleed the brand, we spend enough time collectively working to put our core values together. And when you bleed that, it's infectious when you go out and talk to people. When being a part of a community is genuinely a part of your core values. And so, you know, not only obviously we do business with insurance agents. That's a huge part of our business. But we bring them out and put them in positions where, like, so monthly when we do a beautification project, I reach out to other local companies and we go find a house of someone. It typically is either ailing in some way, shape, form, or fashion where they can't take care of the stuff on their own. And so folks from here grab people from there. Oftentimes it'll just be me, my wife, my kids. We'll go grab other business owners locally, and we'll go love on those people. We'll go clean up their stuff, do some yard work, do some, you know, simple handyman sort of stuff. I don't get into any contractor really stuff, but just do some stuff to love on people, and then walk away and check back up on them. It's not a one and done just so we can go out there and put this on Facebook for marketing. I'm going to call you back to see how you're doing and just genuinely love on people. And we use the company as a vehicle to do that.
Man, I love that, because that aligns perfectly with what we do as well. Myself, our parent company, ASAP Roofing, it's all about the family. It's all about giving back to the communities. And it's crazy because I've been on both sides. I've seen a lot of different roofing company owners in the years that I've been in this. I used to be in distribution, so I've dealt with thousands of different people, and you don't see that. You know, it's always more profit driven. It's always, you know, what material can I get the cheapest so I can maximize my margins? And it's starting to, you know, slowly evolve to where now it's like, well, what can I do to help people? How can I be the best person that I can be? How can I provide the most value? And, you know, like you say, you go out and you help an elderly person, you clean out their gutters. You know, I'm not doing that for recognition. We don't even post that stuff on our stuff. But, you know, when someone says, well, how much do I owe you? And you tell them nothing, you know, I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy that I can help you today. And I'm happy that I made an old lady smile. You know, she's not going to get up and clean out her gutters, and she's worried about it. And to me, when that was finally embraced for me was when I came to this organization, ASAP Roofing, and it put me into a different mindset. My whole life's been different since then. We're 3 years in, but switching from thinking about money and thinking about how I'm going to maximize and what I can do to, you know, put more in everybody else's pocket instead of what I can put back out into everybody else. that was the day, man. My whole life changed, and it's been amazing ever since. And I'm looking forward to so much more moving forward as we continue to grow our organization, as we continue to reach more people, just to continue to give back. I've gotten way more than I ever deserved out of the roofing industry. That's for darn sure. I shouldn't be sitting where I'm at, but it's given me that. And I'm very grateful for it, because I realized, hey, this was a blessing that for some reason was gifted to me. And now I need to make sure that I can help as many people as possible. And we employ a lot of guys that, are looking for second chances, maybe didn't get an opportunity that they thought they could excel in because of whatever reason. And just seeing people happy, that's what makes me happy nowadays. So I really like that. That's tremendous.
We have one of our leads on a roofing crew, Jose, and that's what he'll say every Friday. He goes out there. He's like, Mr. Larry, everything's okay. I just want everybody happy. And he is, that's his heart. He genuinely, that's what he wants. He wants the guys on the crew to be happy. He wants from top to bottom in our organization, and homeowners included. He just wants everybody to be happy. And it is a sweet stance to see someone like that. That I want to jump back earlier. You said, it has been probably 2 years that we've interacted back and forth online. And I know I was heading one direction at RoofCon, and you were heading the other direction. I just grabbed you and I'm like, hey, I just needed to see your face for a second, just needed to shake the hand, and then poof, we were off in our other directions. But I just want to compliment you on what you are, just being a positive impact in this industry, and being, it's obvious to see that you're a solid human being and that you want to impactful that way. So I mean, that was one of the things I was excited to do this with you. I'll be excited to have you on mine, because you're the type of folks that I want to interact with, just genuinely good people, and you can feel it from miles away.
Means the world to me. That's the whole point of this at this stage. Like I said, I've exceeded my own expectations for what I thought I could ever do, and all that excess, I just need to give back out to everybody and help. If one person's feeling down today and we can help them out by telling a joke or just smiling, here's an example. I went to Walgreens just about 2 nights ago, just went in to pick up a couple items. And I always ask the people at the register, how you doing? How's everything going? And you can always tell where people are at in their life based on their answer. Some people are, I'm good. Oh, I'm here, I'm still breathing. Well, this girl was really depressed, and I didn't get too deep into it, but I said, how you doing? And she's like, oh, and I said, look, everything's going to get better. I don't know what's going on, but everything's going to get better for you. You deserve it. It's going to be okay. No matter what you're dealing with, you're going to get through it. And it's a complete stranger. I've never met her before. But she was still kind of down when I left, but I came back about a week later, and I walked up to her and I said, I don't know if you remember me. And she just started smiling, and she's like, you know what, that was just really cool of you to do that. You don't have to do that, obviously, but it was just really cool. And to me, maybe she was having thoughts about other stuff. And if that one little smile made the difference, which, a week later, she tells me, thank you for making a difference. That's awesome. It doesn't get any better. There's no paycheck that you could write me that would ever match that. And as long as we can still do stuff like that, that's what we're gonna do for the world.
That's it.
Yeah. So Roofers in Recovery, you guys are doing amazing things. You're helping out hundreds, thousands, probably tens of thousands of people that you may not even be aware of. I see you guys at the trade shows and getting yourselves out there doing your stuff. What's the vision with Roofers in Recovery? Obviously, it started off probably as a side project, to help a few guys out, that kind of exploded into something big. And I'm thinking at some point it's probably going to get bigger than every one of the individual members and what they currently have going. So how are you guys looking at that? And what's the ultimate vision other than, helping as many people as we possibly can?
Yeah, I think it did start, it started with the visionaries of the organization. They were sitting around thinking of ways they could help people. And I think that's what happens when you hang out with big thinkers. Their thoughts turn into big things. And so the vision of the organization really is to impact as many as many people as we can, not only from them just feeling a positive vibe and kind of taking the stigmatism off of, or the stigma off of talking about the impact that drug and alcohol addiction has, especially in our industry where we come into fast money and it often leads to fast, bad decisions. So it's about getting people into rehab and helping them keep their families together. And so, truth be told, it takes dollars and cents to do that. So oftentimes we find our mission is about fundraising. And so, we're still in the infancy of developing our connections with distributors, developing our connections with manufacturers, large scale companies, that sort of thing. So it's still kind of a grassroots movement. This year, we're going to have a National Roofers in Recovery Day on June 3rd. And we've asked, owners of roofing companies to donate the profits from one roof on that day to Roofers in Recovery. And the hopes are that we're able to put more and more and more people through rehab to do that. And so that's kind of, when we're out at the trade shows and whatnot now, that's what we're talking about. That's the word that we're trying to get out. We've got a Facebook page. It talks about the National Roofers in Recovery Day on the Facebook page. We all post about it weekly, and we're just really trying to get that out. From a growth standpoint, I don't know. I can tell you that the guys that started it didn't expect to have to bring on other board members. When they added myself and Chris Cox, they were not expecting that. And it is a labor of love, but the work that comes with it is taxing because it's emotional work. When someone reaches out to you at 11 o'clock at night and you've made the vow to be there and they're in straits, I literally have had people reach out to me that have a gun in their hand and are teetering on making that ultimate decision. That's stress, man. But it really puts life into perspective. What we do is, sticks and bricks, sticks and shingles. That phone call is what I wake up for. And so ultimately the growth is going to lead to where we have to have designated people that are available to take those calls and be there for those people. Right now, it's a bunch of guys that are just willing to do the deal. And the organization that they've worked on, the Reeds and Eric, and when I say the Reeds, I mean Kimberly as well, Callie, all of them have input on it. But the organization that they are developing, they've done it right. So they've built the infrastructure early on that could hold some weight. As we grow, we would obviously have to grow in numbers to simply handle the volume. But I promise you, there's not one person that's in the organization that won't jump for joy when the stress of having to add on hits us, because we will have impacted enough people where we need to. So that's kind of the vision as I understand it. If I misspoke any, I'm sure Eric will he'll call me and be mean to me. So
he'll be authentic about it. I can guarantee that.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. I know you guys get, tremendous results. There's a huge swelling of support for you guys in the industry. What is that? I mean, you started off just, hey, we're doing this. And now you've got, I'm sure there's thousands upon thousands of dollars that are being donated at various events around the country. People that are, reaching out, wanting to be involved with it, doing the whole thing. If someone's watching this right now and they're not familiar with Roofers in Recovery, which hopefully by now you are, and you're gonna, look into it if it's something that can help. What's the best avenue for someone to get a hold of you guys to figure out, if this is the right thing for them, if this is even a possibility for them?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is to go to the Facebook page. So we have a public Facebook page, and then we have a private Facebook page. The private Facebook page is where we talk about our more intimate recovery stuff. But the public Facebook page is where you'd start. Just put in the Facebook search function, Roofers in Recovery. It'll take you to the public page. Go in there and drop a message if you need more information. And that comes to a few of us. Someone will get back with you promptly. And that is the proper channel. You can always reach out via cell phone. Mine is 615-332-2862. If anyone's having an issue that's drug or alcohol related, anything like that, don't ever hesitate to pick up the phone and call that number. I will answer it. But as far as getting involved with roofers in recovery, that's the proper channel to go through. We've been so fortunate where yesterday, Eric had posted a picture with John Cenac at one of the discontinued shingle classes, made a tremendous donation. I think people that have been in the industry migrate to it because they understand how drugs and alcohol have plagued our industry. And so that they see it on a widespread level. And so there's something that now's been around a little bit. It wasn't just a flash in the pan. And they go, okay, it's starting to get traction, but let me help that. And people are willing to do that. People are willing to stand up, even if, like, for instance, with John Cenac, you go to his Instagram and he'll have an Instagram post that is numbers and numbers and numbers of bottles of bourbon that he's collected. It doesn't mean he's got a drinking problem. And we're not out there saying that people that drink are all alcoholics like we are. But he realized there's a need in the industry, and we were helping to bridge that gap. There's almost at the trade shows, it feels like there's a plague associated with it. You want to see people dodge something, come sit in the Roofers in Recovery booth on a Saturday morning after everyone's gone out Friday night and watch them. And I just laughed about it at RoofCon because I'm like, I promise I'm not going to look at your bloodshot eyes and go, oh, you need this, get over here. That's not what we're about. We're just about people that want help, need help. We help connect them to help. I hope that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And you're absolutely right. We joke about that stuff, but it's really not a joking matter. I mean, at the conventions, it's always like, well, hey, the second day you're going to have, a much thinner crowd than you had the first day. By the third day, you could pretty much sit up front. You're going to get the pick of the litter for whatever you want, because it just thins out due to the lifestyle choices of several people and why they go to those things. Obviously we go because we want to be better. We want to learn, and we want to collaborate with the best in our industry, but there's a definite need for it. I can't say enough how proud I am to be talking to you today. This is something I've been really looking forward to for a couple of weeks since we started talking about it. Looking forward to being on your podcast. And is there anything else before we wrap up our conversation here that you'd like to talk about? You've got an open floor here with Keepin It Rio, and I want to be as supportive as I can be to you, my friend, because you're doing something amazing.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. No, I think you did a great job facilitating, asking questions that led. I honestly didn't expect to get into some of the felony stuff, but man, it is, my thing is make your message and get out there. And there's nothing wrong with a solid redemption story. I say often that, people love to see you win, but they identify with your failures. And so I'm grateful that you pulled that out of me. I wasn't planning on that today. And I'm really, really thankful for you having me.
Yes, sir. That's Keeping It Rio, right? That's what we do over here. We speak the truth. Good. So I'm extremely honored, Bubba. You are the man. And I look forward to many more conversations for many years down the road. This was an awesome way for us to introduce ourselves to each other, really, here on a podcast. Yeah. And if this can help anybody that is either watching or listening, whether it's today or 20 years down the road, we're very grateful for that, because that's why we're both doing this. And thank you for being a guest on Keepin It Rio. We will put this one out in a couple weeks. It'll be out there all over the channels and, Facebook and YouTube and all the other things that we do. We're on like 970 different platforms. So this will be a good one for a lot of people. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk.
All right, brother. Thanks a ton.
Yes, sir. And I'll catch you guys all next time. If this episode was good, like it, share it, give us a 5-star review. We appreciate that. And until next time, this is Chuck for